Ogbechuchu Festival is just about the migration story or remembrance of the migration or exodus story of the Dogbo, Evers, and their related people. Now, the people that are called Anlo today, they were called Dogbo, Evers at Ngoche, where we came from. And the leaders of this group are Torgbiga Wenya the first, and his nephew Srigan the first. That is Torgbiga the first. And so this celebration of festival has been put in place annually to remember the efforts of our forefathers and forefathers and forebears. And annually, the people of Anlo celebrate this festival. As you all know, the festival is celebrated anytime by people to raise funds for development purposes. And so ours is not different. This year's Ogbechuchu Festival is being celebrated on the theme Arise Anlo. Anlo arise in unity for progress and development. So we are calling for unity among the people of Anlo, and we are calling for development. And so we are inviting everybody all over Ghana and abroad to come and witness the cultural, the richness of the culture of the Anlo people. And then we are also calling for support in terms of finance, so that there are a number of development projects we want to undertake. Some are in progress, and which we need to complete, like the community center projects. And then the Hogba Park itself, we also need an astroturf to make it beautiful, because Anlo Kingdom is the oldest kingdom in the whole of Ghana, followed by Ashanti Kingdom and the Dango Kingdom. And so it appears that we are lagging behind. So we are waking up as a giant, a sleeping giant, waking up this time around, take our primal place in history of Ghana, in the history of Ghana. So this year's Ogbe Festival is having a new face. So it's a new branding. It's not what we used to witness. And so you see that we have unveiled a new logo, and that marks a new beginning, the injection of new energy into the celebration. Another takeaway for this year's Ogbe Festival is the food bazaar that we want to organize. What it means is that we are going to showcase the Anlo kitchen. Of course, without missing words, Anlo kitchen is the richest in the whole of West Africa, if not Africa as a whole. Because if you take one produce like corn, you can do about 45 dishes from this corn. And that is how rich Anlo kitchen is. If you're talking about sauces, soups, gravies, and the rest, you cannot mention the number. And so we are inviting everybody to come. The celebration is in November, as we all know. There are a lot of line-up programs. We are going to do competitions in terms of quiz, beach parties, music parties, and music festival. And we are going to do football, sports, competitions, and so many things. So it's a very rich celebration that we're going to embark on this year. And so we invite everybody, the gentlemen of the media, the ladies of the media, we are inviting all of you and to be our partners and to partner us in this celebration. And the chief over there is called Torgbiga Wenya the third, who is the Dufia of that town. And he is going to host this mini Ogbe celebration. I am Torgbiga Wenya the third. And so that presupposes or suggests to you that there was the first, Torgbiga Wenya the first, and there was Torgbiga Wenya the second. Torgbiga Wenya the second was enthroned in July 1956. And there was Awamafia Adelaja II, who was also enthroned December 1956 on the lap, on December 1957, sorry, on the lap of the Torgbiga Wenya II. And so there's no confusion at all. And when he was enthroned, he worked with the uncle. You know, Wenya dynasty is the uncle to the Sri or the Awamafia dynasty. And so always they're enthroned on the lap of their uncle. And so they work with him. And so there's no confusion. The hierarchy of Anlo kingship is there. It's established from the beginning. The Torgbiga Wenya I was the one who established the kingdom and was the first king. And when the nephew came to join him, of course, he also was enthroned later after the death of Wenya I as the Awamafia. And so when the white people took over the reign along the slave coast, which this place is designated from Elmina all the way to Dahomey, was designated as the slave coast. And so they introduced the paramountcies. So they made him a paramount chief. And so a paramount chief as an administrative head. But then there's a customary overlord, that is the Torgbiga I, on whose lap he must be enthroned. Aim, as usual, is to unite all the Anlo citizens, home and abroad, bring them back home, and then reminiscent on the exploits of our forebears from Hogwe Ongoche all the way to this place, to showcase our culture, tradition, our way of life, cooking, food, etc. The more important thing is that we want to use it as a platform to raise funds for development projects.
Speaking about
Much for the question. You see, before I assume the position of traditional leadership, I am also a lawyer by training, and so I'm an advocate. And so I used to do cases along this coast. And anytime I visited here, the Timi youth approached me with a peculiar problem that there is a stagnation of progress and development in the kingdom. And then they were demanding accountability of leadership, from leadership. And so this is a matter that has been hanging for all this while. Last year, there was a demand through a press conference, a demonstration that was held in front of the Anglo Traditional Council, and where the youth leaders demanded accountability for the management of the proceeds of the annual Hogwe Chocho celebration. And I believe that this clarion call has been ignored for all this while, and which forced them this time around to go to court, which is the appropriate forum for them to have their leaders account for their stewardship. And I believe that whatever it takes, leadership can just tender account to court. Leadership can just call the youth and tender account that, well, this is what we have been doing so far. We have audited account. This is how much we've got. This is how much is left in our coffers. This is what we intend to do with it. Definitely, if it's clear enough, why not? The youth that took the matter to court will go and withdraw it, but without rendering account. And then they also know they have entitlement as citizens of Anlo. And of course, it is their future. And so I believe this matter is not a small issue. And I believe the corporate Ghana that put a hand in the celebration of Hogwe Chocho Festival yearly is also expectant of accounts of transparency in the handling of the funds which were channeled into this celebration. So I believe it is in our own interest, collective interest, for accounts to be rendered by the management. Yes, when I was enthroned last year, this year from April, I inaugurated a new governing council under the leadership of the Torgbiga Wenya III, my good self. And at the back of it, there were a lot of committees which were set up. And one of them is the new Hogwe Chocho planning committee, chaired by an able chief and academic, Professor Torgbiga Wenya the fourth, who is the chairman of the committee, assisted by Torgbiga Wenya the fourth. And these two gentlemen have been in the planning organization, Torgbiga Wenya, for example, since the 70s. They had been part of Ogbe celebration, one way or the other, planning aspects. And then the previous one, that is under the leadership of our Mafia and Abadadagwesha, was the second. They were also part of it. And so they brought that experience to bear. So they are not new people at all. And so what we are doing, people do not understand. But you see, we extended a hand to them. That look, let's do it together. And so that bring people, and we also bring people. So we have a joint committee, and then we put something new. And then we try and see how the previous administration could account, and then the new committee will take over. But of course, there was feet dragging. And you know, we cannot wait because the youth expect a lot from us. So we have to take the bull by the horn. And we hope that what we are doing, one way or the other, they'll come and join. So we do it together. As for funds, it's something that you can account for. So I don't think it's a difficult thing. All these funds that are given, they're not given in physical cash. They're funds that are given in checks, routed through banks, and all that. So there's a paper trail. And so I believe that the right thing must be done. And we intend to do the right thing. Oh, okay. So since Mamanga is already handling the event planning aspect especially, you may want to ask me one or two questions. Yeah. The program lineup. Okay.
Yes, avec toi,
Give me your mics.